Magandang umaga po mga kaibigan. Pag-uusapan po sa Wednesday Roundtable ang isang domestic issue na in a way kontrobersyal. Sapagkat alam po naman natin na yung mga mag-aaral, yan ay preschool, grade school, junior and senior high school, at maging sa kolehiyo, nasa blended learning. Meron pong gumagamit ng radyo, telebisyon, may modules, at merong internet. Paano ba nakakatugon ang mga mag-aaral at paano nakatutulong ang mga magulang? Sapagkat sa isang bansa na problemado ang internet connectivity, sabi ng DepEd, meron namang modules at meron ding broadcast ang mga telebisyon. Tulad ng IBC 13, meron silang regular na pagsasahing papawid ng mga leksyon. Noong pong nakalipas na Miyerkules, napag-usapan yan at nagkaroon ng ASEAN perspective sa pamamagitan po ni Dr. Ethel Agnes Valenzuela, ang siya pong Director ng Secretariat ng Southeast Asia Ministers of Education Organization o SIAMYO. We also invited a doctor to join us today. Kaya lang siguro very tight yung schedule, wala tayong natanggap na feedback. But we're happy to have with us a resource persons who will give us their insights and probably mga paraan para makatugon sa krisis. We're joined by Ms. Margarita Tucci Reyes. Siya po ay isang trained teacher at yan ay sa larangan ng mindful self-compassion sa Singapore Management University. We're also joined by Dr. Teresita Tessa Rungduin. Faculty po siya sa Psychology and Counseling sa Philippine Normal University. And we hope to have with us Father Jerome Siciliano, ang Executive Secretary ng Permanent Committee on Public Affairs ng Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. Ano yung church perspective? We hope the Council for the Welfare of Children will be able to send their representative, the Philippine Psychiatric Association, as well as the Southeast Asia Ministers of Education Organization. But let's start our discussions. And to our viewers sa Facebook, you may participate by giving us your questions and I will raise your concerns sa ating resource persons. Tucci, from your end, how do you look at the situation today? Ano ba ang kalagayan ng mga mag-aaral na gumagamit ng iba't ibang paraan para matuto? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Melon. Good morning, Dr. Teresita. Yes. And to all our listeners for this morning. So, perhaps like in my case, what I deal with on a day-to-day basis is really perspectives. And I was just telling Melo earlier that there's so much conflict that arises in the home now. So when it was already let's say, nung wala pa ho ang pandemya at pumapasok po ang mga bata, meron na nga mga pressures na nangyayari po sa bahay. But bawas po ito kapag ang bata nasa eskwelahan at ang mga magulang may iba-iba pong ginagawa during the time na nasa eskwelahan po yung mga bata or sa pag-uwi po ng mga magulang na sa hapagkainan na lang po sila makikita. The issue now is being in a blended learning, being in this learning environment wherein they are together 24/7. Okay, so there is really no downtime. And when we talk about that there's no downtime, that means there are pressures that are external, such as not having enough connectivity. Just the beginning of the week, classes were canceled because there was a storm, and not hearing the teacher, thus the delay of submitting of the deliverables. So these are the external pressures. But what I'm saying is there's compounded internal pressures on both the child and the parent, and that's something that in my work that I really emphasize on. Kasi parang yung connectivity, it is what it is. Meaning to say, it is outside of our control. But there are certain things that we can control inside of us, especially in the side of parents, no? And how to navigate skillfully being with their kids in this very trying time for the parents and trying time for them. So in a nutshell, that's how I um, basically see it now. Melly, you're on mute.
Okay. At yan ay simula pa lamang, no? Okay, from the Philippine Normal University, Dr. Dongduin, how are things going? How do you look at the situation?
Yes, Sir Melo, I'm sorry, my connection is quite unstable, and I may come to you as speaking ng staggered or staccato, no? But basically, the concern is also shared with the teachers. Well, looking at the parents po kasi, nagkakaroon nga po, katulad ng sabi ni Ma'am Ducci, no, na in relation to the changing roles, nagkaroon ng role change na ang responsibility has been given to parents in terms of monitoring their children during class hours and even beyond class hours, no? So isa po 'yun sa issues that I think is shared not only among grade schoolers, parents ng grade schoolers, pero parents hanggang parents ng mga, for example, kasi I gave a lecture po sa isang university na ang aking kausap po ay parents ng graduate students. And these are the same concerns, no? So, however, aside from the parents trying to adjust through these tough times and along with their children, nasa frontline po, nasa hotspot po ang teachers in terms of the quality of their preparations of the modules, in terms of the type of learning materials that they would be delivering, no? So for example, kagabi po I got the chance to watch a televised lesson about fertilizers, and I know that coming from the Department of Education, napakalaking preparasyon po yung isang 15-minute video to be able to translate what could have been translated easier kung it could have been a conversation between students and teachers inside the classroom. So basically po sa PNU, we're trying our best, no, to assist teachers and to be of help, no, to provide support to teachers in delivering quality education despite the short time, no, ng pagpe-prepare po nila. So yun po, sir, no. So nag-change po ang roles ng parents, nagkaroon po ng mas madaming demand sa students ngayon, no, dahil ang isa po sa mga naging issues ngayon ay kada subject ay dapat may deliverable. So if you have say 8 subjects, you have 8 deliverables, and then at the same time the teacher at the center or at the center of it all, being the person na nagka-calibrate na paano ko ba may bibigay ng hindi nagkakaroon ng problema, both sa hindi ako nakakaapekto, no, hindi nakakaapekto ang edukasyon, no, doon sa buong dynamics ng family. Yun,
Yeah.
sir.
Isang problema yan. Pero ang naalala ko nung ako'y nasa elementary, Tucci and Tessa, pag school opening, lagi dun sa essay writing sa Filipino o sa Ingles, ano ang ginawa ko nung summer? At kung ano ang mga karanasan, yun ang naisusulat. It's a way of informing the teacher kung ano yung experience ng bata. Pero anong isusulat ng isang bata ngayon kung ang kanyang experience confinement sa tahanan sapagkat bawal lumabas? Tapos yung summer during my time, and that was a long, long time ago, pag bakasyon, that's the time you get to meet friends and make new friends. Sa bakasyon, kaya uwi ka sa probinsya, kaya dito ka sa Maynila, papasyal ka sa Manila Zoo, o maglalakad ka sa Luneta, yung mga ganon. Pero wala yun ngayon. Tucci, from your end, anong nakita mong pagbabago sa ating mga kabataan sa lifestyle ngayon na may COVID-19?
So sa mga kabataan, ang isa sa mga I'll start with what we're missing out first. Okay, what the kids missed out. The kids missed out maybe on their definition of adventure, their definition of talaga, nanggaling ka dito? Kwento ka naman. The connection that is felt in the stories shared about what happened during the summer. But here's the thing. One thing that I also, when I talk to kids, that children are very wise, no? And one thing that arose when we were talking about this is, since the pandemic is being experienced by the human race, so it's not, hindi naman natin alam na buhay tayo ngayon to experience it, di ba? It's something that has happened 100 years ago, di ba? It started with the Spanish flu in 1919, di ba? And now we're experiencing it. Hindi natin alam na, tayo ngayon. Yung ngayon, ito yung makaka-experience ngayon ng what is happening now. They are experiencing common humanity, the children.
Mm-hmm.
So, that at their very young age, they can already share stories with how it is for them, because it is something that they are all experiencing together. And I didn't know that talking about it in grade school and even in middle school, tapos iakyat na rin natin in high school, meron din palang sense of connection, because their experience right now, there's so many commonality. So it's a shared human experience.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, meron din kasing leksyon or mapupulot dun sa, nga, maraming nakakakita na hindi nga journey, hindi nga adventure, pero when I talk to children at tinatanong ko, kamusta naman? Anong ginawa nyo during the pandemic? Ito nga, tumaba na kami. Or, ito, parang, si mommy, ang linuluto na lang, nagpapalit lang ng menu every week. So, Monday to Sunday, yun yung kinakain namin. Then, they share stories of their trials. Talaga, kami nga, ganda. So, the perspective of adventure changes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, what I'm saying is, it's yes, it's very trying, it's very challenging, but it's also not that bad that at a very young age they could already see things differently, which I think adults can learn something from too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tessa, yung tungkol sa homeschooling, the mere fact na hindi ka pa
Yes, sir.
eskwelahan, ano ang impact nito? Dahil sabi nga ni Tucci, they can adjust, children can adjust, pero anong adjustment? Hindi kaya magbago yung behavior ng bata kung siya ay nasa loob lamang ng tahanan? Yes, please.
One of the things po talaga kasi na nangyari sa atin lahat ngayon, no, during the pandemic, is yung nagkaroon ng change in routine. And I think ito yung nakakaapekto ngayon sa mga bata in relation to how they would actually schedule their learning time. Kasi sa school kasi defined ang learning, no? Nandun yung contact time with teacher number 1, contact time with teacher number 2, we look at the tasks. However, ngayon medyo blurred yung lines between when do I stop for example, learning about this, if I'm still interested, for example, it's a modular, the students receive their modules and they got interested in answering it. So yung ganun, sir, no? Tapos yung idea kasi na una, ang connotation natin ng bahay ay pahinga. No, for example, for some people, they actually went back to their provinces, and their stay sa house nila sa provinces is usually equated with rest. And it's difficult to now to adjust that now that you have the online learning, no? Tapos gagawin mo siya sa loob ng bahay na ang equation mo ay doon ka nagpapahinga. That is where you go home from, no? You go to from school, no? So kaya may mga sinasabi kami sa parents, for example, in parent training seminars, in orientations with parents, na sana gawin nating specific yung routines inside the house, no? Let's have, for example, a specific time frame for doing certain things. Of course, alam po natin yan kung naka-online learning yung bata, kasi natatapos yung isang segment ng kanilang pag-aaral sa isa-isang buong araw, no? At may schedule ito. Ngunit kunyari, paano kung sa iba? No, hindi po ganon. And then, at the same time po, na mag-establish ng specific learning area na doon nadidefine na kapag nandun yung bata, ang mindset niya ay mag-aaral. So, ayun po, no? Kasi Sir Melo, ako po ay isang homeschooling parent, no? Ako ay 7 years nang nag-homeschool ng aking mga anak. Kaya mas nakakatulong po kami, ang aming homeschooling group, in supporting parents who are having problems now with dealing with time management, diba, with problems in motivating their kids to actually engage, no, tumaas ang student engagement.
Yeah.
Tapos lastly po, in relation po sa sinabi ni Ma'am Reyes kanina, no, nung May po kasi nagkaroon po kami ng isang advokasya, kami pong mga homeschooling parents, na magkaroon ng isang webinar for kids, at ito yung Understanding the Pandemic Kids Edition, where we invited a lot of experts and professionals such as psychologists, doctors, meron po kami economics professor, may history professor, who would now explain to the kids, no, bring down the level dun sa kids na paano naiintindihan ang nangyayari. And what we found out is they shared the same feelings as their parents. So it's anxiety, but they cannot verbalize that it's anxiety because hindi naman siya yung commonly pinag-uusapan eh. So the anxiety is there, the worry is there, no? Nag-aalala sila para sa aso nila, baka magka-COVID. So yun yung mga kailangan i-discuss ng aming mga experts sa kanila, na these are the things that happen when a person, kunyari, nakakontak ng COVID, sabi ng tapos kung anong nangyayari biochemically sa isang tao, no, and so on. And we had to assure the kids that even if it's dangerous outside, no, the support they get from their parents and their family members, no, relatives, ay enough to serve as emotional buffer for them to be able to pass or to be able to survive or thrive in these times.
Okay.
So yun po, no, parang tama, no, ganun. We all have the same concerns and pareho po yung emotions, hindi lang po na-verbalize sa mga bata.
Very interesting. How many kids do you have, and bakit nag-homeschool sila?
Values, sir, ang issue namin. We'd like our values to be to be practiced and understood by our kids, no. Dalawa po ang aking anak, isa pong nasa grade 6 na ngayon, na simula kinder ay nag-homeschool, at isa pong nasa grade 4, no. So so far we have established routines, no. That is why I have time po for doing other things, such as doing this po, no, kasi early on, kunyari at the start of the week, nasusulat na nila kung ano yung mga learning goals nila, and at the end of the week, we look at the learning goals. Ito po yung itinuturo namin sa ibang parents who are now homeschooling, para po maging intentional ang parenting, no. maging part talaga sila ng development ng kanilang mga anak. Mahirap lang po ito kung ang mga magulang syempre po ay may iba pang work, no, katulad po ng halimbawa ng mga nasa malalayong lugar, sir, no. So, yun po yung issues namin with how we can support teachers naman po, no. So how do we, for example, motivate a parent who has not been taught how to read and write, no, naturuan at tulungan ng kanyang anak. So nandito po yung suporta na ibinibigay po namin through teacher training.
Okay, maganda yung binanggit mo. Pero sa pinakahuling datos na narinig ko, may 10 milyong mga Pilipino ang nasa iba't ibang bansa. Malaking bahagi ng kanilang mga pamilya ay nasa Pilipinas. Mabuti na ikaw ay narito sa Pilipinas at may oras para gabayan ang anak. Paano ngayon yung pamilya na masasabi nating magkakahiwalay? Yung ina ay nasa Europa, yung ama ay nasa Middle East. Kung hindi man, how would you adjust to such situations na ayoko mang banggitin, pero merong dysfunctional families? Tucci and Tessa, your thoughts about the conditions prevailing today?
Dr. Tessa, please go ahead. Yeah.
Tessa.
Okay, ma'am. Sige po. Sa mga families po na kunyari single parent, no, or for example, families with yun nga, no, yung hindi po common ang circumstances, no. Usually we seek help doon po sa main caregiver or to find a person na significant dun sa bata. And we ask the help of this person to provide support. Kasi naniniwala kami na it only takes one person who is crazy enough to love the child, no, to be able to develop na ang isang bata ay lumaking hindi naman kulang, no. So yung ganon, na lumaking maganda ang self-worth niya. Sa ngayon po, ang halimbawa po, no, ang ginagawa po namin, no, in terms of how we support families is, for example, to look for people who could immediately and directly provide the help sa pagsagot ng modules nila. So for example, it could be an elder brother, no, or yung kapitbahay po, as long as they follow the safety protocols. Yung ganun po, no, ano po talaga, it's a community thing na po talaga, no. And for example, I have talked to teachers in Palawan, and part of the things that we have talked about ay igamitin ng husto yung local nila, no, yung local resources. So for example, local resources could be yung natural resources na endemic sa lugar, no, or at the same time local resource could be the barangay chairman, no, trying to provide support, and the kagawad, no. So given na meron silang responsibility sa governance, no, part of which na pwede pong kunin o makipagtulungan sa paaralan para masigurado po na nakakaaral yung mga bata na kunyari parehong magulang ay hindi nakapag-aral. However, para naman dun po sa nasa ibang bansa, yun po, kung sino po yung direct relative. Ang nagiging training po namin ay talagang kailangan suportahan yung bata. Yun po ang ipinaiintindi po namin sa kanila.
Yeah, maganda binanggit mo, pero I know of a university somewhere in Calabarzon na nakipag-tie up na dun sa mga magulang sa abroad na yung tuition, pakidiretso nyo na sa university. Dahil may mga guardian na sa halip na ibayad yung tuition, nagagastos kung saan. May mga pagkakataon nga raw, natalo ka sa tong-its. So wala pang bayad sa tuition. These things may be extreme, pero it happens. Yeah, yun ang masakit. Yeah, Tucci, from your end, how do you look at such conditions?
Well, these conditions that you're saying, Melo, hindi na siya nakapagpanibago. Meaning to say, dati na natin issues. I remember na kasi po mga 2.5 years po ako nag-handle po ng mga conflicts between OFWs, and so it was
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
understand the instructions of the school. So, or maybe even attending PTC, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Yung, kasi nga ngayon po, virtual, pati ang PTC, virtual.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Her office hours. So even that, even kung titingnan natin, ano ba yan na catastrophic na dahil hindi lang nakaka-attend ng PTC. But for this human being, it's important. It's important for this, let's say, this mother or to attend at least to the PTC kasi yun na lang nakikita niya involvement niya. So one thing that we give in seminars and even trainings is giving them different ways of communicating, whether they are challenged. Meron at meron pa ring paraan. So missing all those years, what we are trying to do is actually, of course, there is a physical gap, but bridging bit by bit the emotional gap and the disconnection between the OFW and also the child. So there are different ways of doing this. Pati pinag-uusapan dito yung ang ibig ko sabihin is when I say mechanism kasi, 'di ba? All of us have intentions, 'di ba? May the intention is to deepen my connection with my child. The intention is to be able to talk to the teacher. When I say mechanisms, the different ways of doing coming from that intention.
Mm.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying by mechanism. Like, di ba, in communicating, they can communicate with their parents now through social media. Pwedeng, dami, di ba? Pwedeng Messenger, pwedeng Viber, pwedeng FaceTime, pwedeng...
Name it, you have it.
Yes, di ba? And then when there's connection issues, pwedeng ang pinag-uusapan na isang mekanismo is, o sige, once a week na lang. Pero at least meron pa rin tayo ng once a week natin. So hindi pa rin nawawala yun. So really going down to the details of what is comfortable for the child and then the school involved and also the parents who are living abroad.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
we're joined by Father Jerome Siciliano ng Public Affairs ng Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. Ano ang naging papel, Father Jerome, ng CBCP to keep the family intact despite the COVID-19 pandemic? Father, good morning and welcome to our discussions.
Thank you so much, Camelo, at sa lahat ng mga nanonood, nakikinig. Well, number one, dalawang bagay yung ginawa ng simbahan dito. Number one is liturgy, and number two is works of charity. So when we speak of liturgy, we keep the families intact by, offering them our spiritual services. And then we keep the family intact by also being charitable, especially to the poor people. At palagay ko, malaking bagay ang pangyayaring ito, yung mga ginawa ng simbahan dahil nakita natin na may concern yung simbahan. So, hindi nagpabaya yung simbahan. Kumbaga, kung nasa loob ka ng bahay, Well, hindi naman dito puro mga practical lang na gawain, kundi napakahalaga yung spiritual interventions. Katulad ng misa, then nagdadasal din ng rosaries, and of course, other spiritual services, although virtual nga lang. And of course, yung pinakamahalaga talaga sa lahat, yung charity. Kasi alam niyo isa yan sa mga halagang mission ng simbahan, yung talagang tumutulong ka sa mga nangangailangan.
Aha. Kaya ako kasi naitanong yan, ngayon may problema yung ilang mga pamilya, kasama na yung magulang at yung mga anak tungkol sa pag-aaral ng kanilang mga supling at paano mag-a-adjust doon sa new normal. You know, this may sound funny pero my wife teaches online at may mga recitation. Nung nakatakda ng mag-recite yung isa, biglang nawala. Nag-message yung isang estudyante, ang sabi, pasensya na po kayo ma'am, sabi nung classmate ko, nag-brown out sa kanila. So wala lang internet, nawalan pa ng kuryente. These things may not augur well with our foundations. Nawawala yung ating pagiging charitable, nagiging irritable tayo. Father, from the Catholic Church, from the Church itself, ano ang pwedeng gawin to keep people sane despite all these headwinds?
Well, kung halimbawa yung mga circumstance sa binanggit ninyo, yung talaga yung nangyayari sa mga pamilya, well, I don't think meron talagang magagawang konkreto dyan, yung simbahan. Halimbawa, naputol yung internet connection, halimbawa, nawala ng kuryente, palagay ko, hindi natin makikita kung maging effective ang intervention ng simbahan dyan. But more, ang nakikita ko dito na pwedeng gawin ng simbahan, more on the internal side. Ano ba yung naging impact nito? Yung disappointments, di ba? Nadi-discourage yung tao, doon papasok yung simbahan. You know, the church has always preached a message of hope and consolation. Lagi namin sinasabi na ang buhay di naman talaga ng tao very complicated and there will always be difficult moments and we just need to be patient.
Uh-huh.
So yun lang, parang it's a kind of message that forms and then at the same time gives the person a different mindset, a different perspective. Well, we can always focus on the difficult side. We can always focus on the problems. But then what we're telling you is, well, lahat naman ng problema may solusyon. Ang buhay hindi mismo problema. Kumbaga, ang buhay may problema, but life itself is not a problem.
Very
Now,
good.
when we speak of problems having solutions, well, it's a fact. Because when we speak of problems that anymore having solutions, well, I call it pseudo problems. Baka hindi na totoong problema niyan, di ba? Baka gawa-gawa na lang yan na talagang hindi natin hinahanapan ng solusyon kasi talagang wala, di ba?
Okay.
So yun ang point.
Okay. I'd like to pose this question to Tucci and to Tessa. Mayroong mga magulang na napupunan nagkakaroon ng pagbabago sa behavior ng kanilang anak, especially with the online classes. Ang nangyayari daw po ay nag-hair pulling na yung bata. At yun ayon sa pagsusuri, parang coping mechanism to do away or deal with stress. Tucci, you're familiar with cases like this. Ano ang masasabi mo?
Yes, Melo, because one of the things I teach is mindfulness-based stress reduction, and I resonate very much with what Father Jerome has said is basically creating, when I speak to them, so we usually spend about 8 to 9 weeks with participants, and what we explore there is what is happening within them. Kasi 'di ba, ang dami niyo na pong nasabi na what is outside of us. Kasi yung what is outside of us, ang dami kasi doon that we cannot control. We cannot control the brownout. And then plus, alam niyo po ba, isa sa mga stress po ng mga teacher is, nagsasabi ba ng totoo yung estudyante ko? Nagsasabi ba ng totoo na, bakit palagi nilang brownout? Saan ba nakatira to? Or, pati yun, it enters already the thoughts even of the teacher. So, one thing that we also teach, my colleagues and I, is basically to begin by how would I call this? The starting skill of being aware of their own thinking, how they are feeling, and how they are experiencing it in their bodies. you know. And the reason why I'm saying this because ito rin po yung mga nag-arise, yung kunyari hair pulling, iba-iba po yan, iba-iba po the way that halimbawa po, anxiety manifests in every human being. So sa mga bata, meron po na mas patago, mas hindi po nakikita. Dahil hindi rin po feeling safe na mapag-usapan po sa bahay. And then, iko-connect ko lang po doon sa sinabi po ni Dr. Tessa na it only takes one human being in the life of the child that they are exposed to kindness, that they're exposed to compassion, that they're exposed to hope, that they're exposed to love, unconditional love. And that is enough actually to transform the way the child perceives things or the child experiences his or her life now. Okay, so that's the reason why I truly believe on yung the one step at a time work, but at least meron yung sa amin po kasi mga teachers maganda po yung isa sa mga mentors na sinabi ko na lahat po ng tinuturo natin sa mga magulang, sa mga bata, it's coming from the knowledge that previous teachers and mentors taught us. So parang with all their skills and resources behind us, ang kagandahan po nun is tayo po in the present moment are now capable of teaching what others don't know yet. But it doesn't mean they will never know. It just means, and it doesn't mean also that I am better than them. Diba? It just means that what I know now, I am sharing with you. Because as a human being, fully experiencing the pandemic like you, that I am very, how would I say this? That not only I'm at a loss for words now, but basically sharing this is actually a privilege.
Mhm.
Yeah, so yes, so parang the one step at a time work, dahil that one human being will affect another human being. This human being will affect another human being regardless of age.
Papasok din kasi dyan yung role modeling eh.
Yes.
You know, if you noticed, this is an academic discussion. Nung mauso yung pagmumura on mainstream television, pati mga bata, parang expression na rin nila yung pagmumura. Because they saw it on television. And nobody said anything about it. What's your take on that, Tucci?
When I interviewed, because I do a lot of work with kids, when I interviewed kids, many of them who actually say it don't even know what the word means. Okay, so the younger they are, the less they know what it means. But the older they are, it now becomes yung para silang nagme-mirroring yung so this is a way of expressing my anger. This is a way of expressing my emotions. So now let me use this, not knowing that there's a consequence behind that. For instance, that behavior, when we deal with family conflicts, that behavior is actually in the sa mata ng aking magulang is disrespectful. Okay, so it's basically creating awareness on the child, and also creating awareness on the anong tawag dito, the parent, that there is a need to communicate this with each other.
Okay.
Especially now, no? Yeah.
Very good. I don't know, pero Tessa, ano impact sa teachers kung, alam mo, nung panahon ko, and that was a long time ago, alam ni Father Jerome yan, pag anak ka ng teacher, nanay mo teacher, tatay mo teacher, pagkapaghapunan, the teacher parents would find time to teach their children. Kaya nagiging valedictorian, salutatorian, the works. Pero ngayon, na online, at meron kang 30, 40 estudyante, and you have to supervise kumusta yung kanilang mga performance, hindi kaya naiiwan yung mga anak dun sa pag-aalaga na dapat binibigay ng magulang who just happen to be teachers. Tessa, your thoughts about this? Bago tayo magtungo kay Father Jerome. Yes.
Yes, Melo, yes, that's a common concern, no. I have friends na teachers po and students na naging friends din po na teachers na they're telling me na or they're reporting na it's quite difficult to balance time. Basically because they're concerned with how their children would be adjusting. Yun yung una nila before and parang before achieving, no. Kasi ang ano nila, kapag nakapag-adjust, mas madali ko na siyang mabigyan ng parang enrichment activities para mas makapag-achieve. Pero ngayon kasi hirap din sila dahil hanggang ngayon nag-a-adjust pa yung mga bata. And yun sir kasi ang isa sa mga concerns, no, yung each subject is required to produce one deliverable instead of looking at it as kunyari integrative na isang activity and a lot of subjects to share. Yun po yung isa sa mga issues ngayon, no. And I think na hindi lamang ito issue ng teachers ang ano, kasi for example po, no, one of my teacher friends actually prepared, no, in advance all the things na her daughter would need so that come the actual online sessions, hindi na po niya po problemahin and still namumroblema pa rin siya ngayon dahil nahihirapan siyang mag-cope doon sa hinihingi naman ng teacher doon sa ng anak niya, no. So sabi niya, sana ako na lang ang teacher ng anak ko kasi mas na-prepare ko according to sa expectations ko. But then again, these are the things na kailangan pong kailangan pong intindihin, no. So I think mas doble po ang paghihirap pagdating po kung ang magulang ay teachers din kasi lalo na po sa type of assessment na ginagawa, no. So depende po, syempre ang dami po nating chine-check ngayon specifically in terms of the integrity of the test material, where for example through online there are other means in which students will be able to get the correct answer without the teacher's knowledge kung ano po yung naging process, no. So yun nga po, sabi, one step at a time po, no. It's not a perfect system but still, no, eventually baka po pwede na yung teacher na parent ay mas maging relax na siguro in the following months.
Okay.
Ayun
Okay.
po, sir.
May pag-asa tayo dyan. Father Jerome, anong nakikita po ninyo, ano ang feedback ng mga nasa Catholic schools? Dahilan sa may blended learning, may problema rin sila doon sa viability ng operations ng Catholic schools. What have you heard, Father Jerome?
Well, I can only share with you the thoughts of one director of the Archdiocese of Manila, who's a friend of mine. Siya nagpapatakbo ng marami-raming schools din dito sa Archdiocese of Manila. It's a system, yung tinatawag nating MAPSA. Well, nakita natin sa kanila na handa sila dito sa ginagawa na blended learning. And siguro may advantage din dahil yung mga estudyante nila maaring mas may kakayanan na mag-procure nitong mga gadgets. Tapos nakita natin na yun nga, meron silang internet connection. So ibig sabihin yung resources nila ay mas lamang kumpara doon sa iba talaga na nasa probinsya. And nakita din naman, na-share din naman itong paring na to na yung kanilang sistema mismo, yung paghahanda nila dito, kung papaano nila nabigyan ng training din yung mga teachers, and then kung paano nila in-adapt yung sinasabi ng DepEd para gawin nila. So they were easily able to adapt them. So meaning to say, kung may mga difficulties man, well, ito siguro yung mga unintended consequences. Pero yung mga kinakailangan na gawin, well, he shared with me that they were able to do that. They were able to prepare for those. But then the unintended consequences, yun ang mahirap. Kasi sabi nga kanina na these are beyond our control perhaps because hindi natin kontrolado yung internet connection, yung power interruption. And then of course, so how the children also will react, kung masyado na bang taxing sa kanila, distressful na ba yung situation. and then sa parents also. So these are the factors, ano? That's already beyond the control of the teachers. But pero may nakikita din naman ako diyan, kung gusto mong tulungan yung mga bata, wag mo nang gulpihin. Hindi sila nang gulpihin, wag mo nang dagdagan kung ano mga dapat gawin, di ba? Kasi it can really be very taxing for the kids also. Lalong-lalo na sa bahay lang sila, tapos wala silang social environment din na matatawag. So medyo difficult din talaga. And it's going to take a lot of what do you call this one, adjustments on part both of the family and of the school as well.
Yeah. Kumbaga lugmok na, wag mo na sipain. Gano'n.
Yes. That's true.
Okay. Hanggang saan ang pasensya ng mga bata sa kanilang pag-aaral? Dahil sa baka mamaya, sa frustration nila, mag-computer games na lang. Tucci and Tessa. Tucci, let's begin with you.
Iba-iba po ang levels. So meaning to say, meron pong mga bata na umpisahan ko muna yung talagang find so much happiness and joy with communicating with their classmates, and then is an extrovert, and then is dun po nasanay getting their own yung self-esteem, self-worth, or even being validated by their fellow classmates in person, no? So come the pandemic, when the blended learning started, or when the online learning started, the possibility of halimbawa challenges being more manifested, di ba, in this person. Kasi paano yun? Wala na akong hindi na ako makakapag-communicate, yung barkada ko and all. And then there's also children that they're more ano man ang tatawag natin, introverts. So they are actually loving it. And then I even spoke to a group of students who were the ones who are being bullied. They are loving every moment of the online learning.
From bullying.
Yes. So because there's safety there. And then may physical safety. And then sabi niya, at least I'm only gonna deal with their mocking online. Pero iba yung may mocking na nga online, tapos iisipin ko pa kung mauupakan ako or mananakawan ako ng aking lunchbox, di ba? So there are others naman, mas tuwa sila ngayon. So iba-ibang, my answer there is depending on the situation, and depending on the situation pre-pandemic, they have a way of healthily adjusting or not. Or to the worst naman, di ba? So, ang kailangan lang makita ng mga magulang is kung sila mismo nakakadagdag dun sa hindi na nga komportable na bata, or hirap na nga bata in that environment. Because I know, I was with a co-parent, no, that they punish their son because nahuli na nag-gaming habang asynchronous learning. Ibig sabihin nun, live online, no? Kasi meron tayong synchronous at asynchronous, di ba? So, yung naka-on nga yung camera, pero hindi naman kasi alam ng teacher na may game o may video game nakasabay habang And then nung kinausap ko yung bata, the son just said, because she's so boring. Ang boring niya eh. So this is my way na hindi ako makatulog dun sa klase. Hindi naman nakikita hindi naman nakikita daw ng teacher niya. But the child got the flack for it. So, these are the things that we are trying to address because nga family conflicts are increasing eh. Kasi nga hindi lang bago sa bata, bago rin sa magulang eh, di ba? Yung sinasabi nga ni Dr. Tessa na there's really so many adjustments, di ba? And it's overwhelming everyone, yeah.
So you noticed an increase in number of conflicts within families?
Oh, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Very much.
Okay.
And especially in the beginning, nung talagang hindi pa ho tayo pwede lumabas, ano ho yan, 24/7. Hindi lang po yun, the conflict between husband and wife that's increasing also affects the child. And a lot of children also blame themselves for this because sometimes both mother and father fight over the online learning or the online platform and the deliverables of the child. So there are many, many scenarios, many, many sources of conflict.
Okay.
And we're not even addressing yet, meaning to say, hindi pa na-address ng pamilyang yon yung mismong inner conflict nila sa sarili po nila because of adjusting. So there are many things that's going on that little by little, yun nga.
It seems we have a lot of homework to do.
Yeah.
Di ba? Tochi, siguro matanong ko rin si Tessa, yung ginagawa niyong modules na sinishare ninyo, anong laman nito? Ano ang inyong ibinabahagi sa mga nanonood? Tessa?
Sir, mag-ano lang po ako, magdagdag po muna ako kay Ma'am Tucci before, doon sa binanggit po niya, before po sa modules, no? Take note ko po. Una po kasi, kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng disengagement from studying is because of two things, no? Emotions that are not expressed, no? Kasi hindi po part ng family dynamics ang nag-express ng emotions. And then the second is emotions that are expressed but are not recognized or parang not they're ano tawag dito, parang sinasabi na ba't ganyan ang nararamdaman mo, no? So I think one of the things that parents can do at this point in time is first and foremost, no, to see that certain of tasks or disengaging behaviors might be in relation to emotions that are not addressed. No, so as parents, we validate their emotions. We tell them na worrying is part of how we will feel at this point in time. Kasi yung uncertainty, yung anxiety, it's normal, no? I'm also anxious too, but I'm trying to control it as your mother kasi I need to make sure that you will be supported or you will feel loved at all times, no? So yung ganun po, no? Ngayon po, in terms of the modules being prepared, no? Basically yung modules po take the form of webinars given by parents, by teachers, no, to support other parents. In terms of the preparation, sir, no, yung content, it's most likely in relation to how we can provide or how we can help, no, our parents to become more intentional in their approach, or for example, sila mismo, no, magkaroon ng self-care, no, na magkaroon sila ng time para mag-reflect and to see how they are providing support and providing the care and love na ina-expect ng anak nila, at kung nag-shortchange ba yon, no? So yun nga, promotion of communication, and yun katulad po ng sinabi ni Ma'am Tucci, no, it's an understanding of their child's personality in terms of, for example, how do I support a child who has my child who is more accustomed to getting energy from other people, yung pagiging extrovert. Or for example, how do I provide enriching experiences to my introvert child, no, or to my to a child who is always agreeable but there's no one to agree to kasi wala namang collaborative group work lagi, no, it's more on individual work. So these are the things that would most likely cover, no, the plans, no, in terms of giving modules to support parents.
Okay. Magandang bagay yan. Pero, Father Jerome, mukhang babalik tayo sa pamilya. Ano po ang nakikita ninyo? Kanina kasi, bago kayo dumating, napag-usapan namin yung maraming Pilipino nasa abroad. Kung hindi man, may mga pamilyang Pilipino sa Pilipinas na magkakahiwalay due to work. Like yung tatay, sundalo, yung nanay, pulis, naka-assign kung saan. Yung tatay, doktor, nasa COVID-19 hospitals. paano ang gagawin ng simbahan para mapunuan yung pagkukulang kung meron ng pagkukulang sa panahon at sa paggabay sa mga anak? Father Jerome.
Well, the presence of the church in the life of parishioners, in the life of the family, may be very, very limited because of the situation that we are into right now. Kahit nga yung public celebrations namin, hindi namin magawa. So, ang mangyayari na lang dito, it's all about virtual participation in the life of the families that we are talking about. Kaya, halimbawa ako, kung meron man akong kakilalang pamilya, likas na naman sa akin kumustahin mo man lang, di ba? A phone call, a text, and communications. Ganon din ang ginagawa ng ibang mga pare. I talk to them. Yung iba nga ay nagdiriwang pa sila ng misa para sa families, especially if there are special occasions. So yung ganong interventions ay malaking bagay na rin kahit papano. Kasi hindi natin maipipilit dito yung talagang face-to-face, interpersonal, para talagang magkaroon kami ng impact sa buhay nila. And then of course, ang mahalaga dito yung message din. So virtual presence, but the message, even though virtually expressed, pero mahalaga din na tumatama din yan sa kamalayan ng kinakausap.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very difficult also for children to understand the situation. Alam naman natin yan kasi minsan yung bata, hindi pa naman yan malawak yung pananaw niya. They would always really just point to a particular reality that they find difficult. Pero kung paano sila magko-cope, well, hindi lang siguro simbahan ang gagawa nito, kundi talaga yung mga magulang din. Kung sino man yung present yan, kung hindi man magulang yan at is guardian. Pero ang point na lang dito ng simbahan, mahalaga yung message. And when the church naman speaks, it's always public. Okay? So, meron tayong social media, meron tayong mainstream media. So, halimbawa ako, pag nai-interview din naman ako, it's always public. So, we cannot pick or choose a particular family unless, of course, kakilala mo talaga yan. And of course, another situation is kung sila mismo lumapit sa simbahan. Kasi, hindi namin alam kung ano talagang pinagdadaanan ng lahat ng pamilya. I am a parish priest, for example. I can only depend on them. If you come to us, we're going to help you. But right now, kung kami din naman yung iikot, we cannot just easily do that. But then at least the message is there. So it's up to them to receive the message and then understand the message.
Yeah, pero I've noticed, Father, different dioceses, parishes, and even groups in the Catholic Church have shifted to the social media.
Yeah.
It appears they have reached more. I remember, sabi nga ni Archbishop Cruz, may he rest in peace, kung mag-homily ako sa katedral na 50% o 70% ng nagsisimba tulog, I'd rather go to the social media, sa Facebook, pwede sa Twitter, pwede rin sa kung ano man. Have you noticed that too, Father Jerome?
Yeah, even the attendance, when you speak of physical celebration, means to say physical participation of the people, you can only count maybe 100, 200. But when we celebrate the mass virtually, at least in Facebook, you can have there 1,500. So it means a lot, di ba? So makikita natin dito na mas malawak yung reach ng social media kaysa talaga yung sa may physical talagang presence sila. But of course, having said that, I still want change physical interaction, interpersonal relationships with the virtual one. Kasi meron ding pitfalls yung virtual Alam mo yung communication kasi hindi lang yung words hindi lang yung sinasabi. Even the body language also communicate
Yeah.
So merong message din na pinaparating dito Doon mo makikita yung sincerity, doon mo makikita yung seriousness ng tao, doon mo makikita yung talagang totoong emotion, how is he responding to the message, 'di ba? So parang we value the contribution or the advantages that social media gives us. But at the end of the day, we still need this interpersonal communication. And we are looking forward to that. Na sana may balik na yung normal, sabi nga natin, para at least mas maging effective tayo sa pakikipag-ugnayan natin sa kapwa.
Yeah. Tucci, if we look forward, what do you see in the near future? Let's say a year or two from now. Will we have more expressive children? will we have more, sabihin natin, socially prepared children who can talk to almost anybody? Ano ba ang nakikita mo, Tucci?
I can't really say, syempre, for sure, we don't know. No? The world is really fluid now and can't really predict that personally. But so far, with the schools that that I'm communicating with, something that has risen is the way they ask questions. So it is actually the first time. So kala ko itong eskwela lang na to, no? It happened during the pandemic that the final entrance exam test of battery of tests was on resilience.
Oh,
Yes. So that surprised me, but in a way I was happily surprised. So it was a series of questions on mental resilience, on emotional resilience, and on physical resilience. And I didn't know that when I spoke to the school, it is what mattered to them. It was what carried weight. So I believe that it is something that will come out of this in the educational system. Hopefully, no, a few schools are already starting it. A few universities that there is also the the huge importance, or that how the human being is able to bounce back
mm.
in what they're going through, which is gonna be actually a factor or something that hindi na po iisang tabi. Kasi nga sabi nga po ni Dr. Tessa, pati ang dami-dami pong mga ano na they can't even express themselves because talking about their emotions is taboo. So I didn't know that it's opening a little there's more awareness now, especially with professors, especially with the heads of school, to include this in their curriculum, and beginning with entrance exam pa lang.
Mm.
Okay, so yun ang nakikita ko so far, no? But how the kids will adapt, I don't know yet. You know, iba-iba pa rin eh. The human being is very diverse. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Saan sila pwedeng kumuha ng pangsuhay, yung crutch to survive, yung support? Where do they get the support to survive all these headwinds that we have today? Parents, school, teachers, society in general, members of the church, ano kaya?
For me, all of those.
All of those.
Like, kung whoever can help. Ang bata kasi, the younger they are, the more resilient also they are. And then, that exposure, kunyari, one figure can already be very impactful. Kasi kung matatanong po yung mga bata is, sino yung favorite ano mo? Sinong favorite person mo? Ano yung highs mo today? Ano yung lows mo? That's something also that we encourage, no, in communication, na talking about at the end of the day among the family, let's say at the dinner table, what are your highs, what are your lows, and then the parents share their own highs and lows, para nakikita nila na okay, hindi lang ako, si mommy ganun din, si daddy may pinagdadaanan, so that we are all going through something, and it's all very human and very normal. So, and then I'll turn over to Dr. Tessa because I know that this is more her territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tessa, your thoughts? Tessa?
Okay, opo, I think tama, I share the same views with Ma'am Pucci na we cannot exactly predict what is to happen in terms of learners development. But one thing na I have realized over the course of my conversations with parents and teachers, no, and those who are willing to support the development of children, no, in different ways, no, is that as we adjust, no, as we try to accept the realities of this pandemic, we have been becoming more forgiving, no. So we forgive first ourselves, no, yung parents. We forgive ourselves as parents for not knowing enough about technology, or for not being able to provide what should be provided to our children, because we weren't that prepared, no. And yung mga learners, they forgive themselves for not, for example, being the best student, no, that they could have been, have it been a face-to-face interaction, kasi iba nga po yung dynamic, sabi nga ni Ma'am Tucci, na parang others are benefiting more from the remote instruction, while others naman po are showing off task behaviors. And teachers should forgive themselves for being given so little time, and yet being asked to do a lot of things, no. And of course, we forgive the system, no, because it's not a system that has been very thoroughly prepared for circumstances like this. Tapos I think moving po tayo sa idea na we are now more accepting of the emotions of the people around us. Nava-validate natin. So kapag meron pong bata na nagsabing nalulungkot siya, naiintindihan natin yung pagkalungkot niya at gusto nating pag-usapan ito. Hindi katulad po dati na, oh, maglaro ka dyan. Hindi ganon, ano? So it's more on parents and teachers alike, no, being more sensitive to the cues students give and their children would likely give, no, given the emotions na kasunod po ng pandemya. And I think we're going towards the idea na nanonormalize na natin yung kindness. Ang dami pong mga estudyante na nagpo-pull together ng resources nila to help their classmates, and madami pong, for example, mga specific individuals who would really want to help the DepEd, no, yung mga teachers ng DepEd, bumibili ng isang box ng coupon band, or tumutulong po sa pagdi-distribute ng modules, no. So yung ganito po nano-normalize yung kindness and altruism and empathy, no, towards others. However, ang isa sa pinakamahalaga po yung importance ng connection. Well, connection po ng internet. Pero hindi, connection ng relationships, no? Nano-nurture po natin yon kahit, for example, hindi tayo magkakasama, pero nakita po natin at nagkaroon po tayo katulad ng ganitong pagkakataon na, for example, had it been a normal, usual non-pandemic day, no, hindi po magkakaroon ng ganitong pagkakataon na makakasama namin kayo to talk about, no, how learners are, how our parents, and how should we be able to support them, no. So yun po ang aking views in terms of how things will go and how learners will change.
Okay. Bago tayo magtungo kay Father Jerome, babalik ko yung tanong kay Tessa at kay Tucci. Maniniwala kaya kayo na itong pandemyang ito ang nagbunyag ng malayong malayong agwat ng mayaman sa mahirap, at dito sa pandemic na ito naging pantay tayo? I don't know, because while pwede kang mag-aral sa bahay, kung ang bahay mo naman barong-barong at ang kuryente mo jumper sa Meralco, at yung tubig mo kung saan kinukuha, hindi kaya lalong mahirap ito? Bago tayo magtungo kay Father Jerome, dahil kanya yung last word rito Tucci, it unmasked the wide gap between the rich and the poor, no? Tucci?
Yeah, for me, it's really this whole pandemic, no, even beyond our borders, beyond our country, is really unmasking the human condition.
Okay.
So that for me is something that I learned personally, and that there is no also the reaches of how we can serve, how we can help, goes also beyond our borders, goes also beyond capacity, capability, itsura, whatever differences that we have with each other. Kasi um, alam niyo po, nakakatawa pati sa mga barangay-barangay, and then basta naiintindihan nila yung sinasabi, naiintindihan nila ng ang pinapakinggan nila, people are craving for connection. So even if it's dahil nga sabik sa connectivity, especially for human, sabi nga nung aking isang Danish co-teacher, the human condition now is suffering from skin hunger. Skin hunger. Kasi right now, 'di ba, tayo po, sanay na sanay po tayo na kung magtuksuhan lang po tayo mga Pilipino, maggaganunan lang po tayo, 'di ba? That's already expressing an emotion, sometimes even expressing delight, 'di ba? So, when we say that, yung kunyari, that example of that we are now experiencing skin hunger, it's really the natural tendency for human beings to connect, okay? And what I'm seeing here is lahat po ng pangangailangan, every human need, hindi po human wants, every human need of every human being is actually the same. Iba-iba lang po yung siguro iba-iba lang po yung nasa hierarchy nila. Alam niyo po, yung iba-iba lang po yung ano yung number 1 sa akin and number 2 sa akin. But this is what the pandemic is teaching now. And to also see, last and not the least, that in whatever we are going through, we are not alone. Even though we are hindi natin kakilala kung sino yung going through that. Alam niyo po kasi, one thing that is so prevalent now during the pandemic is isolation, whether it's physical, mental, and emotional isolation. And repeatedly being aware of that, and even comforting ourselves, comforting our children, comforting our family, comforting our spouse, our siblings, our colleagues, and saying, you're not alone. Marami sa atin na yan ang pinagdadaanan, na kahit na hindi ko eksakto naiintindihan kung ano ang pinagdadaanan mo, I'm very human, just like you, just like me. So there you go.
Great. That's nice. Tessa, from your end.
Okay, sir. Well, sa tingin ko, naging evident ang social hierarchy at this point in time, no? Dati po kung nabibigyan ng equal access ang iba, nakita po kung sinong may access. However, no, I think at this point in time, no, more than ever, ay na-highlight ang idea po ng kapwa, no, na sinishare ko yung aking identity sa inyo, na parang ang nangyayari ay dahil ako ay Pilipino, nagiging concerned ako, for example, doon sa napapanood ko sa TV na Pilipino na nakatira sa sidecar at gusto kong tumulong. So, given na highlighted po ang social hierarchy at this point in time, na-highlight din yung mga values associated with trying to make the social hierarchy, no, trying to blend, no, the hierarchy. So yun, no, resources wise magkakaiba po no, pero yun nga po yung nasa mataas na bahagi ng hierarchy, nakikita natin yung mobilization nila to address the needs ng mga mas mababa, yung nasa mas mababang level ng lipunan natin. At yung mga nasa mababang level ng lipunan, natututo sila na gumawa ng paraan upang hindi lamang umasa, kasi nakikita natin yung mga success stories ng mga nalugmok ngunit tumayo. So yung in relation po sa resilience, no. So yun po, no, yun ang aking take on that question, sir.
Yeah, so Tessa, what you're saying is it goes beyond the puting buhangin sa Rojas Boulevard. It goes beyond what is seen, no?
In as far as mental health is concerned, sir.
Okay, goes
Yeah.
beyond the Dolomites. Okay. All right. Father Jerome, napapanahong pag-usapan ito, All Saints Day, All Souls Day. It is a reminder na lahat tayo may kaluluwa. At sa ganitong pagkakataon, ano po ang inyong magiging mensahe, Father Jerome?
Well, when it comes to education, I think basically education is not only about the mind, but it's also about the education of the heart, which is very important. And a while ago, I was pleased to hear that highlighted din ngayon yung charity, yung pagtulong. Because I think kapag nakikita din naman yung nung bata yan, he is an object of help, natulungan siya. I guess nabibuild din sa kanya yung character na, well, I was a beneficiary of help coming from people. So, kinakailangan ko din tumulong siguro. So, isang magandang halimbawa yon. And then talking about education of the heart, well, I guess baka magkalayo yung soul sa heart, Pero ang analogy dito, ang puso kasi nagbibigay buhay yan, Scientifically speaking, di ba? Yan ang nagbibigay. Kapag tumitibok pa yung puso mo, may buhay ka. At kapag pinag-usapan naman natin ng filosofiya, it's the soul that gives life to the body. So kapag halimbawa pinag-combine mo ng dalawang yan, talagang dapat talaga natin i-educate din, Hindi lamang yung utak, kundi pati puso, kaluluwa. And one way to nourish the soul and the heart, I think, is through spiritual nourishment, through spiritual vitamins na ibinibigay din naman ng simbahan. So kaya I guess a lot of people nowadays should focus on that. Maganda na mag-survive tayo dito, physically speaking. But I guess a great deal of survival also should focus on how our souls and how our hearts should be formed, should be developed also in the process.
Very good. Maganda. Batiin ko nga pala na magandang umaga si Kaipe Salvosa II. Nanonood siya. At ganun din yung mga miyembro ng Teachers Summit. Good morning din kay Rosie Paula Cantara watching from Jeddah sa Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Let me close our discussions today with an old song I learned when I was young, and that was a long time ago, as I said earlier. It's entitled Children. Ito kinakanta ng Sing Out Philippines noong araw. Children know a little less, but how they need your love. They're the closest ones I know to someone up above. No? Children, sabi nga, feel the same way for every person they meet. Aren't they better with knowledge incomplete? Because they cannot hide what they need or what they're feeling. What if we were all that way? Tapusin ko na po yung ating discussions, Father Jerome, Tucci, and Tessa. Thank you very much. And to everyone who joined us today, we'll have more discussions in the near future. This may not be commercially viable a topic, but it is important because it deals with the family and how the family should deal with the headwinds we have today. Thank you. Have a nice day. God bless us all. Stay safe. Till next time.